Welcome back to another episode of Bleav in the Broncos on the Bleav Network, sponsored by FanDuel Sportsbook. Bree, the Broncos final 53 is here. Practice squad has been announced. They have 17 players on the practice squad. We are going to talk about our biggest shockers from the roster cutdowns from the Broncos and around the league. We're going to talk about the practice squad as well. We're going to get into all of that ahead of the week one matchup with the Tennessee Titans on this episode of Bleav in the Broncos. First and foremost, Bree, how are you? It's good to see you.
I'm here. It's good to see you too, Pat. Football's back and we're getting ready for it. 10 days out from the regular season, even less though with that. There's a Thursday night football game too. So we have that to be excited for. So it's even less days. My skin's itching. My palms are itchy. I'm excited for this. I'm looking forward to it. I was surprised by a couple of the moves that the Broncos made. I know we'll get into that, but around the league, roster cutdowns are no fun. It's just not a good time. A lot of shock and a lot of who will get picked up where, and then a lot of careers ending here for a couple of folks. So, looking forward to getting into it and kind of covering what it means for the Broncos moving forward. But I think we're all pretty optimistic here when it comes to Broncos country's camp.
Yeah, Broncos, making those cuts, not a ton of shockers, honestly. We were talking about this pre-show. It's really not that many shocking decisions. They kind of went with what they liked. I think a couple people were shocked by some of the special teams cuts that they made, but I wasn't particularly shocked at all. Bree, the Broncos final 53 looks, it's pretty dead on to what we thought it was going to look like. Who was the biggest shocker for you, though? I know there wasn't a lot, but who was the biggest one for you?
I tweeted out about it. You can see that and more at Maestas 303. But the idea was that Bleav Bailey not making the final roster was kind of a shock to me, being a veteran there. Obviously, going to the practice squad, I think Sean Payton probably has a plan there, whether it be elevating him in the first couple of weeks as Dre Greenlaw and Alex Singleton are both kind of busted up but still playing. So I assume that there is a method to his madness here. But Pat, I think you need to get onto the soapbox and let the people know that you were right there. Kareem Reed actually making the roster there. That was your surprise candidate. Mine, obviously not making it, and Courtney Jackson. I thought there was going to be enough special teams contribution to make that move go, especially with the trade of Devon Bailey to the Saints. I thought for sure they were making way for that sixth receiver, but it looks like, apropos to what we've seen in the past and what is a general consensus around the league, is that Sean Payton chose to use that spot up elsewhere. But again, I think this is a lot of chess and not checkers as you continue to look to the guys that they did try to keep. Whether or not they were stashing them specifically on that 16-man practice squad. It is 17 with that international spot, though, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep,
so we've seen them utilize that as well. But I really honestly thought that because of the waves that Bleav Bailey made during the training camp and preseason, that we would see him crack that 53-man roster. But I in no way think that it's a shock in the sense of what the Broncos already have in a very loaded roster, is that we were going to see moves like this happen. I think the other one that sort of gave me a little bit of a head scratcher was Calvin Throckmorton actually being waived and then picked up for the practice squad. I do think that a lot of his transferable skills from preseason to regular season would have been shown, but Pat, you made a good point about what that means and how they view Frank Crum, specifically some of the interest that was garnered as far as teams wanting to pick him up. So I think a lot of the moves that you see during this time when you start cutting down to the 53 is who are you going to be able to keep in the long run, specifically when you've been able to assess most of where they're going to fit in during the rest of the season and how you can keep them long-term on this team. I think it's a good place to be, though. And it has me feeling really optimistic because this was one of the harder decision-making. I feel like there was going to be a lot of upset and maybe letdown when it came to letting some of these individuals go. And you can make fun of me all you want, but not having Michael Bandier or Courtney Jackson on the team does give me a little bit of sadness, but it does at least tell us that we have the ability to run an Adam Prentice and pick up maybe another tight end to work into there. So the movement is good. And we're not having to rely on players who are very much so very siloed in their skill set. That's kind of the other shocking thing to me, though, is that a Courtney Jackson really would have opened up some interesting concepts. And I think it would have been nice to have and not a need to have. I think that there was more of a, but what if, and what could that spell for the Broncos offense and special teams moving forward? But it looks like they already have an idea of what they want to run there. I just thought we were going to be able to see someone who could lend to stretching the field on two different phases of football for the Denver Broncos. And I got a little shiny and sparkly and star-eyed about it. So maybe not so much shocking, but a personal letdown for me.
Well, you'll be able to hopefully watch him in the Pacific Northwest, as Courtney Jackson was signed to the Seahawks practice squad. It was a really interesting move, not keeping any of those guys. And we'll talk about that later in this episode. But Bree, with the final 53 set, before I get on my soapbox, I just want to remind people, with the final 53 set, you can run over to FanDuel Sportsbook and throw some money on either Pat Bryant or RJ Harvey winning Rookie of the Year. Right now, RJ Harvey plus 2,700, Pat Bryant plus 8,000. If RJ Harvey is a pivotal part of this offense this year, that bet might make you look pretty smart and put a nice nice chunk of change in your pocket. But Bree, I am going to get on my soapbox because with the Lavelle Bailey move, which was shocking to me a little bit, they chose to keep Justin Strnad, which I'm fine with. Good special teamer. It was fine when Alex Singleton went down last season. Not spectacular, but he was fine. He was serviceable. I think he's going to keep growing. It was a little like, okay, maybe they didn't see enough from him during the preseason to really justify it. And maybe they knew they could keep him on the practice squad just in case, as that insurance policy, if Singleton struggles and gets hurt again, and if Greenlaw goes down again. Keeping Kareem Reed was a very smart move by the Denver Broncos. This kid, again, in the game against New Orleans, was making plays. He's all over the field, stellar run defender, like everything that we talked about in that last episode. He came out in New Orleans and he balled out, and he definitely earned his spot. Very happy for him. Sean Payton loves his Utah guys. Coach, shout out to Coach Whittington. He runs a really, really great program out there. And the Broncos really love what he's able to do with a lot of these players. And I think we're going to keep seeing that trend come to. I think you're right on the right path with Calvin Throckmorton as well. I think that move was probably more of we know we can keep him around, but Frank Crum is probably going to get a lot of interest, and it turned out to be the case. Somebody was talking about what do you mean Frank Crum got a lot of interest? Only 3 teams called. Well, that's 10% of the league. 10% of the league was calling about Frank Crum. There's some quick maths for you, right? So,
well, how often does it happen in the league? They're constantly trying to shop your offensive linemen because you can only keep so many, and you got to see who's going to be the next guy up. So
right, and well, I've had Matt McChesney on the show before, and he said something along the lines of offensive line coaching in this league is terrible. It's awful. So when you find an offensive lineman who has good traits, who is coachable, that's a rare find, right? So he's someone who maybe teams see as a guy with a lot of potential to be either, a swing tackle or a spot starter, probably not a franchise guy, but good enough to really bolster your offensive line. And I think that there's a reason that the Broncos really wanted to keep him around. So I'm glad Throckmorton stuck around on the practice squad. He had a really strong preseason. I was really happy with, how he performed. But really quick, just want to run down some of the big names that the Broncos did release who are not back on the practice squad. Audric Estime is probably the biggest one. He did end up signing with the Philadelphia Eagles. He is on their practice squad. which is an opponent that the Broncos have on their schedule. So, they get a young runner who's tough. I don't think he really matches their scheme at all, to be honest. But more power to him. Maybe they can do something with him. Estime is 21. Got some good run in the league last year as a situational guy, but just not the right situation for him here in Denver. You mentioned Michael Bandy, Courtney Jackson, Jerwan Newton, my personal fave. All those guys gone, not coming back. They did part ways with Caleb Lohner, the 7th-round pick. He is back on the practice squad. Caden Prescorn is gone. Xavier Truss was waived. He is also gone. He is, I Bleav, with New Orleans now. Clay Webb, one of your personal favorites from this offseason. No, not for that reason. He is gone, and he is in Tennessee. Week 1 matchup, kind of some due diligence there. Some other guys, Damari Mathis cut. He is in Carolina. He reunites with Ejiro Evero. And Dellarin Turner-Yell. Oh, Sam Franklin. That's the big one. Sam Franklin was the one that I think people were kind of shocked because he got a fully guaranteed contract this offseason, had the special teams experience. But Bree, when I watched back and I watched the punt team, I watched kick coverage and all that, I just didn't see it. Like, I don't think it was there. Could not beat the jam on punt, which is like, as a gunner, that's the one thing that you're supposed to do, and just couldn't do it. So he is gone. He's not on the practice squad. So those are just some of the bigger names that we were kind of looking at as maybe being potential guys to make the roster who really didn't end up getting on this team. But Bree,
some of these moves are like addition via subtraction, though. So I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing. It is frustrating, though, to see developmental pieces that you thought maybe could have a little bit of it, knowing that they've tried it with Audric Estime. It didn't work out. Caleb Lohner is going to have to sit for a little bit and see if he gets that bug. But it'll be interesting to see because there's a lot of promise within the individuals that are back on the practice squad. Not to say there's not in previous in situations like that, but I think it's interesting to note just how stacked it still feels, and not necessarily that they're clamoring for addition elsewhere. Yeah.
Bree, going into, after all these cuts, going into week 1, what's the one position group that you're still really worried about?
Worried is a strong term. I think there's more concern. I've been concerned since day one about the O-line, but I want to go in the direction of what comes off of that. And I think it's the run game, and it's the depth of the position and kind of the question marks surrounding that. We went from going like, ooh, could they keep 5 to seeing Audric Estime leave, to see Blake Watson being released for that injury. I think there's a little bit of durability question marks when it comes to the talent presently on the roster, only because the long-term grade of that positional group and the work that was done in the offseason won't come to a final determination until the season is over. Like we won't really be able to fully tell what's happening here, because a lot of this is going to be contributing to stretching time of possession and the offensive efficiency, and if games were laid on the shoulders of the run game, because I'm not really looking for any member of this offense to have a career year when it comes to stats, and that's wide receivers and running backs alike, right? Like I'm really not gunning for those the receivers to get those 1,000-yard seasons, or the running backs to get 100-yard games. Like that is not what we're looking for out of this offense the way it's presently built. And I think it's more of a durability factor. Who's able to stay in the game? What availability do they have? Is the addition of J.K. Dobbins what it needs to really start to ramp up? But then also when you start looking at creating a wall on the offensive line, is how much of that blocking ability that's now been put into the culture of the team. And we talked about it a little bit after the preseason, is it does look like many more of the offensive skill players are actually contributing to the ability to block, which will help a lot. But what is this rushing offense actually look like, and what's being set up to make that happen? Because it's not specifically just a running back, it's the durability of the run game. So I'm sort of kind of got this big question mark on, I still don't see the vision on what it's supposed to look like, but I have seen a lot of optimistic fun that's come out of some of the putting your guys in the best position to succeed. And we've seen a lot of that. So it gives me a lot of optimism. I'm in a good place about it, but I would say, and I would caution a lot of Broncos country to not put a lot of stock. Like, I wouldn't bet heartily on any of the running backs. Like, don't draft them for fantasy. And I could be way off, but I'm just saying these aren't going to be the productions in which you're blown away by one individual.
Yeah. And I think, like, there's also the aspect that this offense might not start as fast as people want it to, right? It's still going to be growing pains, especially if you're switching your run scheme, right? Like, not a lot of, I think people don't understand that takes time, and it takes a lot of reps, more than just like one off season. You're going from one like learning one set of rules to a completely other set of rules. And we saw it in the first preseason game. I mean, Quinn Miners got stepped on, and it just created a whole bunch of mess. And that was a consistent theme throughout the preseason, is kind of missing these steps and missing their anchor points. And like, you got guys climbing to the second level and missing blocks and not being very patient. And that's just like, that comes with the change, but in time it'll get better. Maybe it'll probably take the first 4 to 5 weeks of the season for the offense to even really get into a groove. They didn't play a whole lot during the preseason. It's one thing if you're going against your own defense all the time, but like, you've got to be able to go up against other people. And I don't think they necessarily got the amount of reps that I would want them to get in a preseason, in those preseason games against actual other opponents who are going to give you different looks than your guys are going to give you, right? So
how do you combat that, Pat? Because we just heard Sean Payton say that enough is enough of the yo-yo football, the slow starts over the last 2 seasons. Well, the common denominator is Sean Payton, right? The head coach. So where are you going?
So here's my whole thing. Like, as a play caller, right? We like the things that we like. During practice, we'll rep the things that we like until we're blue in the face. And it's not the stuff. It's not the stuff that is sexy. It's not the stuff. It's the boring bread and butter. Like, if I want to establish my run game, I'm going to rep that over and over and over again. I'm going to call it over and over again, even if it doesn't work, right? And sometimes Sean will do that. He'll get in his own way. He'll keep calling the same concepts throughout the game in certain situations, and they don't work. But like, you're trying to get the looks so that you can say, okay, this is where we need to adjust this. If we're running, wide zone and we've got this 3 tech or this 5 tech that's just absolutely killing us. How do we adjust from there? So he is definitely partially to blame for the slow starts, but it's also like the quality of offensive linemen that we have for this specific system. I don't know if it's a good fit. I think the end, like we've talked about this, the end guys are fine. It's the middle guys that I'm most concerned about. So why is he switching to this run scheme? I don't know. So I couldn't tell you, but I think it's more of like wanting to be more in tune with the rest of the league. A lot of teams are running this wide zone. And I think it's beneficial for the quarterback, especially when you have a quarterback like Bo Nix, who's athletic, who's not afraid to turn his back to the defense. And it just opens up a lot of those explosives. So it's going to start slow. I'm telling you right now, it's not going to be like, we are not going to get, and I could be wrong. Tennessee was a very good defense last year. All things aside, they were like second best in the league in yards allowed. 30th in points allowed, which is crazy. But second, like one of the toughest defenses in the league last year. They were really well coached for not having superstar talent all over the place. So I don't think that it's going to be this massive blowout that people think. And I don't think they're going to get a 100-yard rusher in that game, unless Bo Nix just pops off and runs for 110. But, you know, that's just me. But I think like it's going to take some time. We're going to have some growing pains again. Please, please, please don't panic. Like this has to happen. You have to have the growing pains because that's what good coaches take and fix shit with. And we saw Sean do that last year in real time. Like he would fix things. And then the next week they'd go out and just run it down people's throats. Same thing with Bo. Like they would run certain concepts and it wouldn't work. And then the next week they go out and he's just balling out. So
well, Pat, and the whole idea is that the only way to install, right? And I feel like I'm woman-splaining now, but the only way to install is to make sure that vision actually happens and you learn where that gap is going to be. So if your whole preface in wide zone right is to I guess then place where the tight end was, which relies on your offense to have to I guess displace defenders. And so there's a whole lot of learning on the go that has to be implemented over and over and over again to really make sense of it all. So it's intriguing and it's fun and it's exciting, but it does take a lot of vision. And I'm hoping that RJ Harvey has a lot of it because that would lead to explosiveness, which is the fun part of a run game.
Yeah, and I think he's going to be able to create a little bit, like off of those. You know, we saw it in the preseason where he bounced that run outside, and everybody's freaking out. And it's like, okay, well, what do you want him to do? You want him to just drive his helmet into the back of the guard? Like, do you think like
that's a bowling ball?
Like like Javonte Williams did last year? Like that's what you want him to do? That's the guy that we just got it. Like, come on, man. He has the explosiveness and the quickness to bounce those outside. Even if he gets like 3 to 4 more yards than what we probably would have got, like I'm fine with that. Make the right decision. Get out of the mess. You don't always have to, like his first touchdown was that itty bitty tiny hole that he squeezed through. It's not going to be like that every single time, but that showcases what he's able to do in those situations. Bree, cut downs around the league. Really tough day. And, Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce decided to make that day all about them. Classic. But
you're a football family. You know better.
Come on. What are you doing? They knew this. They knew what was going on. Travis Kelce's got, all these teammates.
The NFL timeline's on the fridge, man.
They just got cut and you're out here posting about your engagement. Dog, talk about a locker room fiasco. I'm just kidding. No. So was there any external cuts from outside of the Broncos that you kind of like deep down inside, you're like, ooh, I kind of wish the Broncos would go get that guy? Was there anyone that you were kind of pining for?
Well, I think we're seeing a trend with where my brain is today, because I think it was a lot of the running backs that were left without a home quickly before they were scooped up, because I think that's a general trend around the league right now. And you'll see it too. I'm going to keep mentioning fantasy because this is the week in which that really rings true for a lot of people, is that your meatier parts of your draft are a barren wasteland when it comes to available running backs, to where you start digging into the idea that Austin Eckler is once again going to be your saving grace as your third stringer. And so I think we're all in the mentality of where have all the running backs gone? And you'll see a lot that there's plenty on these teams. We talked about it with the Denver Broncos and releasing Audric Estime, but it did leave a little bit of a question mark, right? We went from having 5 to 3 and kind of a question mark as to what that looks like moving forward. So when the idea of a Cam Akers or Clyde Edwards-Helaire, like that was sort of where I was like, interesting. Now, the only thing that turned me off from that prospect is they were both Saints, and I'm not quite sure what the New Orleans Saints are doing, and I don't know if they know either, right? Releasing Jake Haener, I think Mickey Loomis is having an identity crisis. I don't think it's necessarily a bad move that they made a move for Devon Bailey, because I do respect him as a receiver. But what they were willing to give up for it, when they really don't have the arm power or the star power when it comes to who's going to be their starting quarterback. I mean, they were the last remaining team in the league to name a starter. So anybody who the Saints are releasing or moving off of may or may not be that diamond in the rough for the gem that you've been waiting for, because I simply don't know if they know what they're doing over there. Apologies to all the Saints programs. Please do not come for me, but I'm concerned for you. So yeah, around the league, I think those are the two names that really struck me, because I was like, well, what's happening here? Those are the guys that you want to have a little bit of that depth piece for you, not the unproven talent that you're presently seeing and having an issue with. Like, it's all fun and games if you want to look towards the rookie running back class, but we know that that's a position that's going to take some time, some upkeep, and we don't want to run your running back into the ground by too quickly giving them way too many snaps and way too much responsibility. Denver Broncos, RJ Harvey. Anyways, we have to talk about it as far as it comes to that. And I don't think there's any currently, like, without a home running backs that I would consider. There are a lot of offensive and defensive players, but the Broncos did keep 9 offensive linemen and 7 defensive linemen. So I don't think they're necessarily hurting for that position. Listen, guys, this is going to be an off season where you're going to be spending a ton of money in free agency yet again. But this time it's going to make you feel nice, warm, and fuzzy and not scared because the dollar signs are flying. So at the end of the day, Pat, if you were to name anybody, I would be shocked if I would jump on the train to be like, sure, yeah, we could pick them up and see what happens. Because I don't know, call it blind faith, but I feel good about where they're at.
Yeah, I think that there wasn't a ton where I was like, ooh, gotta go get this guy. Got to. There were definitely like a couple where I was like, okay, given where the current standing is of the roster, this could be someone who helps. So I have a running list. Okay. The first one was Willie Lampkin. I think everybody and their mother would probably have loved to grab Willie Lampkin. He was released because he was injured from the Rams, played fantastic during the preseason, was scooped up by that scumbag in Philadelphia, Howie Roseman. Just ridiculous. But that was a guy that, like, when I talk about centers, and I know everybody like hears me complain about Wattenberg and pipe up Forsythe when I also point out Forsythe's shortcomings. Willie Lampkin plays center the exact way that I want the Broncos center to play football. He is tough. He does not care that he is the same height as me. He is strong as hell. Okay. That's a guy that I just want in my locker room. Okay. Some other names on this list that I have: Chase Cota, just for the laughs, former Oregon Duck, Oregon guy.
Doing?
Yeah. Relationship with Bo Nix would have been fun, right? But we're not keeping wide receivers like that. Another one, Lil Jordan Humphrey. I know everybody was waiting for me to say that name. I talked about it on Altitude Adjustment. As much as I would love Lil Jordan Humphrey back in Denver, I'm fine with Trent Sherfield. I think he's
Patrick. That's inevitable. Don't act like it's not going to happen.
It's going to like watch in the middle of the season. Lil Jordan Humphrey's going to get
7.
released, and then Sean Payton's going to jump all over it by A.T. Perry. Zach Kuntz was a guy that I was like, ooh, tight end room needs more dudes. That's a guy I would probably go for. Alec Lindstrom, center. DeMarvin Leal, defensive line. Like,
you're missing Shiloh Sanders on your list.
No, I'm not. The other one, Patrick Herbert, brother of Justin. Okay.
For genetics alone?
No, Patrick Herbert was a great tight end at the University of Oregon. Also played a little H-back.
I'm seeing a trend here.
Okay. Also good special teams guy. Hello. He also knows Justin Herbert, Chargers intel. Come on, think about it. But like in the real, I wouldn't have hated that because it's another guy. We added another tight end to the room who was an Australian football player. Give me a break. The one that I really, really wanted, though, Carson Steele. Okay. Not just because of the Chiefs thing, like, yes, we could get precious intel. But this is a guy who can play fullback. And considering that Michael Burton is out for the year, RIP, and we're relying on Adam Prentice, Carson Steele would be fun. I really liked him coming out. I thought he was a really underrated runner, had some ball security issues, but special teams depth. Fullback, utility guy, like short yardage situations. That's what I'm thinking of.
It's 2025 sunshine at this point.
I'm still running strong eye to the flats all day. Ricky Stromberg was a name that I was like, ooh, that would be a fun one to pick up. And then a couple running backs, Jeff Wilson and Damian Martinez. Jeff Wilson from the Niners, he got cut. Wide zone experience, super speed. Damian Martinez, Oregon State alum, tough runner, hurt himself with his draft stock, but really fun player. And then, of course, everybody's favorite, Malachi Corley. He just needed to be in a better situation, and he went to a worse one. So, I know we weren't keeping any of the wide receivers, but those are just some names, that I thought would be fun pickups for the Broncos. Also, Chris Paul Jr., the linebacker, no relation to Chris Paul, the basketball player, but he had a really good preseason. Rams cut him. Don't know why. Just kind of crazy. So that's my shocker from around the league. Bree, let's finish with the practice squad really quick. Broncos practice squad officially at 17 players. Michael Bandy, A.T. Perry, the two lone wide receivers on that team, Calvin Throckmorton and Joe Machowski, the two offensive linemen that they kept, Caleb Lohner, their 7th round pick, they cut him and re-signed him to the squad. Sam Ellinger, the quarterback, chose to stay. He had other offers allegedly. Adam Prentice, just talked about him. He is back on the practice squad. And then the defensive guys, Jordan Miller is the defensive lineman on the practice squad. Lavelle Bailey, Garrett Wallow, Jordan Turner are the linebackers that they kept around. Reese Taylor, Quentin Newsome, Jaden Robinson, who had a pretty strong preseason. All three of those guys are back on the practice squad. And then Dellarin Turner-Yell and Keidron Smith are all on the practice squad. And then the guy that they just signed today, Patrick Murtaugh, I Bleav he's going to take up that international spot, was with the Jaguars, tight end, Aussie football player, could be a fun little athletic piece. But I feel like Sean Payton's just trying too hard to find that next Jimmy.
Well, I want to say they also are putting a lot of scouting hours into inside linebacker, which I think our prayers were answered in that, right? Like you had Johnny Walker go down, and that's why Garrett Wallow got the look. And that's why, he's kind of resonating in the back of your head as someone who you used to know, right? And it's a very
special teamer.
You get that special team availability, but also you're making that practice squad. And I just think there's an invariability that you are going to see a myriad of snaps with the kind of injuries that we're seeing. Like, I'm not saying Dre Greenlaw is going to get hurt, but you're down to Drew Sanders. You are hoping that Alex Singleton keeps it together and we keep stitching him back up and throwing him back out there, right? But a lot of these guys are going to open up the field for the additional swing, right? Like on game day, there's going to be a couple of healthy scratches that lead to the ability of pulling guys up from the practice squad when it's deemed fit. So I just want to say kudos to that, because the practice squad is swimming with talent. Glad to see. The other one note I wanted to make was DTY was sort of a cut candidate bubble guy for me going into training camp, but it was one of those forlorn premonitions, because you didn't want to see a guy like that necessarily not make the team. I just think that there's still a lot left to be discovered and wanted from what he brings to the table. And I'm hoping that he's able to kind of just add and glean a little bit from the practice squad so that he continues to have an impact here, because I think that I've liked what I've seen out of him defensively. It's just not done enough, not enough to make the team right now. Other than that, I don't think there's any sort of other surprises. I'm always happy to see Reese Taylor make some sort of mention here on the Denver Broncos roster.
Now, Bree, I think the biggest thing from the practice squad announcements was A.T. Perry and Michael Bandy being the only wide receivers. The Broncos did not bring back any of the UDFA wide receivers that they had on this team, including your beloved Courtney Jackson and my beloved Jerwan Newton. Neither of those guys are on the practice squad for the Broncos. Why didn't they keep any of these UDFAs?
I don't know. A lot of this feels like agent tomfoolery. I think it was interesting coming through that, like, no, these guys will not be interested in signing in the practice squad. They will be going elsewhere, which is fine. But it does beg the question of, I really wish I had an answer to what was driving that force. I find it very hard to believe that the Broncos weren't happy with what they saw from Courtney Jackson or Jerwan Newton. Like, I feel like it was a shocker, but it was also like a question mark. I know Michael Bandy loves to play football and he loves the game of football, and the Broncos are going to keep him around because he shows up to practice every single day because of that, and incredibly useful in situations. But it was very interesting to me, especially because we heard that news about like Sam Ehlinger refusing roster spots on a different team simply to come back and be on the practice squad. Like, I don't think it's a culture thing. I don't think it's necessarily like a team functioning thing. There had to have been something. And honestly, it may be that Courtney Jackson and his agent maybe decided that they had the better ability to test the market. I think he's kind of one of those athletes that will be able to tell his tale through his play if he gets the opportunity to do so. But it does feel kind of risky to test your market when it hasn't been proven. So I wish I knew what the reasoning was, but I do feel like it must have been the Broncos' plan the entire time to keep 5, which would have led that kind of discussion.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it was just kind of interesting to me to keep, like, if you liked Courtney Jackson, you liked him enough to give him the snaps that you did during the preseason, why are you keeping A.T. Perry over him? What is the whole, like, what dirt does A.T. Perry have on Sean Payton that is forcing him to stay around? Like, we didn't see him at all this preseason. Hardly heard about him during the offseason because he was, like, not at practice. What's going on?
I feel like you need my tinfoil hat that I usually put on, and because that sounds like something I would send in the group chat at 2 a.m.
But, like, for real, like, what's the deal? Like,
it is a question.
Courtney, like, I'm sorry, I'm keeping Courtney Jackson. Like, big size, speed. Like, I'm keeping at least one of those guys. And the fact that they kept Bandy and Perry over any of them is just kind of like, Bandy, I can understand. He's a dog. A.T. Perry, we haven't seen anything from. Yeah. And, like, you hardly participated in the offseason. What are we doing? So, I don't know. I think that's kind of my thought process on that. But, it should be interesting to see how they kind of work. Sean Payton loves to work with the practice squad throughout the season. We saw this last year. Lil Jordan Humphrey and Michael Burton both started on the practice squad to start the season, and then they were game day call-ups. And so we might see quite a bit of that throughout the season. I think maybe more so in the secondary for, like, special teams help, or in the linebacker room, considering that they kept 4. So should be interesting to see. Bree, that's going to do it for us today. Broncos, Titans next week, week 1, September 7th, 1 o'clock Pacific time. The Broncos will start their season. Is that 1 o'clock? Maybe. Yes, 1 o'clock. Broncos start as 7.5-point favorites. The over-under is set at 41.5. We're going to have a full game preview breakdown in our next episode. We're also going to be doing a collab episode with the Titan Show on the Bleav Network. Run over to FanDuel Sportsbook right now. Throw some money on the game. Broncos 7.5-point favorites. I don't know, Bree. I might smash that under a little bit, but I'm going to be weary I think we were like 1 for 2 in the preseason, so we might have to keep.
We got.
we might have to keep a running tab throughout the season of our bets. You can do the same. Go over to FanDuel Sportsbook, throw some money on the Broncos. There's also some great player props. Bo Nix passing yards, I think, is set at 3,750 or 3,500 for the year. He was at 3,700 last year, so that would be a fun one to throw some money on as well. Cortland Sutton touchdowns right now is currently 6.5. So
they're all going to be Adam Troutman's. I failed to.
Whoa. Don't do that. Don't
better than anyone, those red zone concepts.
That's going to do it for us. Make sure you follow us on social media at Maestas303, at Patrick Chiotti. Follow at Bleav Network as well, so you can stay up to date. We will be back next week with another episode. Go Broncos.
Go Broncos.